Okay, everybody, in this session of the Commodore 64 Game Project Video 3 code example, as you've seen from the first example video here, we're going to be exploring sprites in this one. We're not getting into any animation in this video, and there's no collision detection going on yet. It's just going to be a free movement, just to kind of show you how it moves with the map. So let me kind of demonstrate here. I have my Vice C64 screen open, and I'm going to go ahead and scroll through the map. You can see the sprite centers on the screen. He never leaves this position. He's always in one single position on the screen. And you'll notice, of course, I can go through the walls because there's no collision detection or anything going on right now. So what I want to demonstrate in this video is how to go ahead and move and shift between different sprites. Even though in the original video I only showed the idle sprite, which is the one you're looking at right here, I do want to demonstrate how you can go ahead and start adding and changing in different shapes of sprites, and also we'll explore how this works inside of the CBM Studio sprite editor here, which I have here in the background, by the way. I wanted to show you parallel side by side what's going on here. So for example, right here, I have the code example on this side, right? And I have on this side the CBM Studio Sprite Editor. So if you look here where you see the ink bins, and what I did in this project is I added several new ones because these are all going to be included in the next project. And this is the only way I can demonstrate how to shift and change between each individual sprite. If you notice here, the first line here, it reads your sprite.spt, and let me close this out for a minute. Probably the best way to show you this. Right here, your sprite.spt, all you have to do is double click on it on the left hand side there, and it'll open it up like that. So this is keeping track of all the sprites that you've actually created inside of the sprite editor, or anything you've actually imported inside of the editor as well. So you can import your own sprites and stuff like that. We won't go into a lot of that right now. Maybe later we'll cover some of that stuff. But to keep the video simple, I want to show you, these are the different frames. You look here, you see it says current sprite, and you see an arrow here and an arrow here, and it goes from 1 of 110. So this is actually 110 sprites that we can go through here in this game project for this series. So these are, again, the Indiana Jones Temple of Doom sprites that you're looking at here. Now, the reason I'm showing you that is if you look here at the next one here, we got 7,12. So let me go back here a minute to 7,12 right there. And what I'll do here is I'm going to go ahead and comment this one out now, and we'll rerun the project. So we're rerunning the project here with sprite pointing at sprite 7, and once it loads, you'll see now it's actually looking at this one. There's a little dot on the side there. We'll probably take care of it. But if you go down here, you'll see this is the exact sprite that we're now looking at. It's pointing at that first frame sprite. So we can easily go through these frames and center in on a sprite that we want to control and locate and look at the same time here. So this one, for example, this one should start at 13, and it goes all the way up to 18 on the next one here. So what we'll do is we'll comment this one out, and we'll do the same thing here. Now we'll point to 13, 18, which is the walking left position, which will later be the animation. Remember, this video is only just showing you how to locate your sprites and to load them in, and what it means when you're loading them in with the ink bin, so that you understand that this is now pointing directly at this sprite data here. So you can see it's the same thing. We can still kind of, move around the map and everything. None of that's changed. That's going to get him down on the ground here for a minute. Like that. And let's put him over here. So there's our sprite walking to the left. Okay, now you see it's pointing to the right. So this is allowing us to point to any sprites we want based on the values that are being loaded into here. And these are important too because when you're loading in the data range later, you're going to use these inside of the actual tables to tell which series of sprites do you want to use, which will create the animation states here. If I go like that without setting an animation state, you'll see that that's the actual animation state for the sprite there. Okay, so hopefully that's making sense to you. All the sprites are loaded in directly from this area right here, which is actually, let me pull it up here. It's our player routines, and I demonstrated this in the main video here. So player routines, and then we go down to the player state idle, and this is where they're loading the sprite in right here where it says anim player idle. It's actually using a table to point to the appropriate sprite that we want to read on the screen, essentially. So now that we have the shape data in here, let's go ahead and run this and see if we can control that frame. Fingers crossed. Okay, so we do have some shape data going on here. You probably can't see it here, but it's actually reversed the shape data. So remember what I mentioned, how you got to read from the top to the bottom? So this one is actually reading from the bottom to the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back in and we're going to set those values inside of our sprite here. And just going to move it back 1, 42, I guess 42, 43. And if all's well, that should read in the right sprite data this time. Okay, so let's see, 42. Wanted to see what that one looked like. That one is reading way up here somewhere. It's reading this one, 45 of 110. So we know 45 of 110 is pointing to this sprite data, and it could be because some of the sprite data is missing here. And it's all based on the data that we're loading into here. So we do have 45, 46 in here. So I do see that in here. So let's try something different. So we know 45 was this sprite data. So what we need is back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to say maybe go back 6 as a guess. So if we go 42, so it would be 37 and 38, just to see what we get here. And it's always reading, again, sprite 0, sprite 1, in that sequence every time. Okay, let's try backing it up. And we'll set that one to, it's always going to be an even number, apparently. Could probably even leave it like that. Try some series of examples here. Okay, there we got the kicking motion for that one, which should be this one right here. It looks like it's this one and this one. So that should be pointing to 39 and so on. And the way this data is reading it here, 36, 38. So apparently it's starting reading from here, but it's actually reading over here. So it could be how the sprite data was loaded in. These sprite tables are all being loaded in back-to-back. You see it goes 1 to 6, 7 to 12. And if you have any of these that are not matching, I do know, and here's a good example here, 24 to 27, it's going to throw off the whole data. So the main thing is to always make sure that these values are the same. So I usually just go over to an old project I had here anyway, and just copy them back over. Let's see, 18, 19, 24, 25, that should be good. and then we'll just reset that. Yeah, so this data is not equal. Let's fix this actually. Let's go through and look at it step by step here. So sprite 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got 1 to 6 for the first one, right? So we know that that's going to be accurate. 1 to 6 is on the first one. And then from there, we're going on to 7 on the next one, of course. So they have to be in sequence with each other because this is 7. And this is the one going up. So 7 goes all the way to 12. So 7 to 12 should be the next series. We can always test it again by going in here and running it. All it's doing is just loading shape data and memory. So if your shape data is not fitting properly, it's not going to work properly. So, and I'm going to go back and replace this again. And of course, it's going to be like 6 to 12 or something like that. Okay. 7, 12 is reading from sprite 7 over here. This one reads up to 12 right there. So 7, 12 is the rope climb. Should be reading in memory. It is possible we may need to read both of these in. So let's try that because it might be starting at the other one. It's reading it directly in byte by byte. So if you don't put it in properly and you skip areas, then other areas are probably obviously going to be missed here. Exactly my point. So now it's reading the 7, 12. So we're essentially going just down in series here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go to the next one here just to make sure that's right. So 13 goes all the way to, how far does that one go? So it looks like 13 through 18, what I'm reading here. 13 through 18 should be the walking left. 13 through 18. And we can test it again by running it. It'll pick up the last sequence in series again, which should be our walking left data. Okay, and we're still pointing to our old sprite data too, so let's change that again, 13, 18. And this is exactly why I wanted to do this, so I can show you here. Remember, you always go back that one, so 13, 18 would be 12, 18 to make sure you're reading the head and the body, or head and foot, whatever you want to call it. Sprite 0 and sprite 1, top to bottom. And we'll wait for this one. And there we have that. That would be the left animation. That was the first sequence of the left animation, which started right here at 13. So let's just say we wanted to get this one. We just switch it over to 15 this time. This is going to be a little bit longer video, but I wanted to show you. This is important so you know how to point to your right sprites. I had a lot of trouble with this in the beginning until I really understood how the frames were being read in. And you always got to read that sprite data in from 1 to the one where you're at. Otherwise, it's going to skip over other data that's not loaded in properly. So we can tell this one's not reading in the right order. So again, we just have to do that backward motion. So let's see, this one looks like that. I think it's just going to be one forward because this looks like it was reading the last frame, which was, let me see here. Actually, it looks like that frame. That frame's on the top, and it's reading that guy right there. So it's reading those two. So it is going to be back 1 to get this guy. So we're just going to go -1 from where we were. So this time we're just going to go to 14. And we're going to redo that. And just try running it again. And there we have it. Now we have the left sprite animation moving from this sequence, right? So with this tool, we can easily, these two together, the ink bins and the tables, we can easily point to any sprite we want in the series. So let's go to back up here to 13, 18 to make sure we read this in properly too. We haven't, okay, so we know 19 starts over to the next frame, which is exactly where I have this one. So let's see, it goes from 19 over to, looks like 19 to 24, and it changes the sequence exactly here, 19 to 24. Okay, so what we do is we're going to go ahead and run this again. And I hope you guys are picking up on what's going on here. So these are just the frames, right? We started sprite frame 1, sprite frame 6 is for that animation series, and so on. And then we go to this sprite animation frame, to this sprite to get that series, this sprite and that sprite to get to that series, of course. Okay, and you can see, actually, let me see here. I think it might be backward 1 here. Let's go back here a minute. Oh, and I forgot to change the sprite data again. See, that's why you always got to remember when you're changing this, you always want to change this 19,24 to point to your new tables. And that's exactly why I have a bunch of these tables you'll see in the next video defined. So you can easily point to moving back and forth between whatever table you want to point to that appropriate sprite. So 19,24, I'm going to guess 18 to 24 because remember what happened last time, he kind of flipped them. And this is always reading from that point entry of your sprite data. Because remember, it's reading from 5C00, so it's reading all that data in here, and it's going to point to appropriate tables in memory or pointing to X register as it goes down through the data table to read where it needs to go. And there's that one. Is that the one we were looking for? Actually, it's got the one right before it. It's got that one right there. So we want to probably go up 2 because we know this is perfect in sequence here. So 19,24, and we'll just change that to 20. It's that simple, right? Because you know it's an equal number that's allowing us to go ahead and point to the next sprite in series each time. And like I said, we'll be taking more advantage of this in video 4. Video 4 is going to be really exciting. If you've been following this series, definitely do not miss out on video 4. It's going to be about animation and it's going to be about collisions. So it's really going to start getting to where you could actually be playing a game with no gravity, of course. But some games do have no gravity, like when you're navigating through a maze and you're just moving from a bird's eye view. Okay, and you can see now we're pointing directly to this next sprite frame animation. So this is another one I have here. Let's see, this one might go further than I thought it did. Let me see. Okay, so this one looks like it goes up to, okay, so it does. It goes up to 24. So 25 is a new sequence. So now we're just reading our next 25. And we'll look at 25, 28 to make sure that this one doesn't step out of line. This is the punching one. So 25 to 28 is perfect. And again, we're going to go back to our sprite data now that we're getting the hang of this and set it to 24, what was it, 29? 24, 28. So it's back 1 there. 24, 28 to read the next sequence in for our sprite shape. And here we go. And there we have it. So there's the actual, and I'll just go back here to show you. There's this one right here. So we're reading that one. Let me see, that was the end of that one. I think that's it right there. Yep, that's it. See his hands are up right there. And you kind of see his leg is down there and he's kind of standing on his leg or whatever. And then this would be the next series throwing a punch. And again, we don't have to change this because we've already loaded in the sprite frames. All we have to do is go down here and change this to forward to get that head and foot body motion again going on. Stacking, I call it. And we'll run that again to show you how we've moved between all these different sprites. And there's our next one. There's our punching one. So hopefully this is starting to make more sense to you. I mean, I could go through the whole thing if you'd like. I just wanted you to get a good perspective of what's going on here. And you could point to any of these frames you want, as long as you're always reading them right here appropriately. Let's just go finish them out. I think that's just kind of only fair to say and do here. So let's see, we were at 25, 28. So we ended with that one. Now we start off at 29. This is the next punching to the left one, which goes 29 to 32. So that should probably start a new motion right there, 29 to 32. That's that one. And then from there, we go on to 30. We skipped over here. So, yeah, no, 33. So 33, it looks like 33 ended it, though. Let me see. So 32, 33, 34 ended it. So this would actually go up to 34. So 34, because we know 35 started a new frame. Yep, and then this will be 35. because we're starting at frame 35 for this one. And this should be the punching to the right, I think this is. Oh, and this is kicking to the right. Okay, so I'll just put that down here. Kicking to the right. Okay, so we're kicking to the right, kicking, and so on. So 35, 36, let's see how far this one goes. Probably ends at 38. That one ended at 38, and we can go ahead and test it again. Don't forget we have to change our shape data again also in our table. Otherwise we won't know which sprites we're pointing to again. So 34, 38. And let's try that one. And there's our kicking guy right there. Now it started off the sequence here for our 34, 38. And if we go back here again, just to show you again here, 34 is going to be the bottom, but it's always reading that top one on first. So it reads this guy, and then we'll just pull him back up here to show you. It's reading, actually it's reading the next one over. Let me see, 34. It's reading this one, and it's reading that one. It's kicking motion there. So it starts at 35, and then in here we're going to back one, like we said, to 34. So let's see where this one ends at. That ended at, it started again at 39. So we can go to 39 now. And since we don't have this one added yet, I'll just go ahead and make a new one here for this one. This would be 39. And we follow it again through where it goes. So 39 goes all the way to 42. And we'll test it again, just to be sure. It's always good to kind of stop and run and test it. Then you can make sure that your sprite frames are loading appropriately as they should on the screen. So let's see this one. Yeah, there you go. So there's our new sprite data for this guy kicking this way. Actually, wait. What was that data we started at? We started at 34. So back to 34 right here. So 34 is going to push and look at the next one forward, which would be the 35. It's that one, and it's that one right there. Okay. Now we know the next series starts at 39. So that one was the kicking to the right. We can just put a little comment over here again. So was that kicking to the right? Maybe the other one was kicking to the left. Let me see. Let's have a look at it here again. Yeah, it's kicking to the right. This one's actually kicking to the left, I believe. Okay, kicking to the right. And that one ends at 42. That was left. Okay, did I change the shape data? Maybe I didn't change the shape data. See, again, that's why you're always going to know where you're at. So this should be 38 to 42. 38 to 42, and I didn't change it here. So 38 to 42, and we'll go and run that one, and that will be the kicking to the left. So we just need to reverse these two. And there we have it, our kicking to the left this time. So I'll just change that here, kicking to the left, and this will be kicking to the right. Okay, and then now we can just move on to the next one. I don't think this one has the swimming in it. Don't think I preloaded this one, but we could get this guy too if we wanted to. We just have to, again, load him in here. So 43 to 44. I'm just going to use this one, even though this one doesn't include the swimming example, and just start him at 45 is good. That's exactly where we're going to be at anyway, 45. So we'll start at 45, and there's not really anything left of that one, so just 45 to 46. There we go. And instead of swimming, this is just going to be like a standing idle or something. And then we'll just run that one too. So, and then again, don't forget to change our data before we do. So it's going to be 44, 46. Or I'm sorry, 44, 45, because there's only two. 44, 45. And we'll run that one. And that should have reached the end right there, but I just wanted to kind of demonstrate how this all works. Now you see we got the little guy with the hat on, which is the original Indiana Jones character. So you can see just by playing with this whole thing, you can point to any sprite you want, as I mentioned. I think on the last one here, we'll just do this guy. So this one's going to be 56 through, so this is a long one, 56 through, is it 62? 56 through 62. 56 through 62. 56 through 62. Okay, just to make sure we load this guy in. And of course, we're going to load in 55 and 56, just to read the first guy. This is just one of the bad guys in the actual Indiana Jones Temple of Doom game for the Commodore 64. So we're going to go ahead and watch this one. And, oh, again, because we're reading the legs off here, so we probably ended up on this one, it looks like. I think that's it. And then we just need to read the next sequence in. So this one actually started at 61, so I may have been off on this one. 61, and what did I do here? I did 61. So I need to read a character from 60 through 61. That may have been what I did wrong, 60 through 61. I was looking at something totally different here. 60 through 61. And nope, we're still a little bit backward, but this is all learning example, right? Remember, again, if we read one forward, that means we read this one. We just have to go shift forward one for each. So in this one, we're going to say 61, 62, because this one, the data is lined up a little bit differently here, but we can still go ahead and read it in appropriately, the way the program is set up. And there we have it. There's our new sprite. So just like that, we're able to go through, change our sprites, and like I said, the next video will be really, really fun because we're going to be able to, as we change our shape data, we're going to move. Like if we move this way or that way, for example, it's going to change that shape data. All right, so what we were doing here is we were going over our sequences just to see how the animation states work. If you want to change the colors and everything, you can still go into the sprite areas and change the colors and everything. Like here, you could change anything in the sprite itself. For example, let's look at the sprite here for a minute. We can see here that it's got a little yellow shirt or whatever. If say I don't like that yellow shirt, I could just go in and change it to an alternative color here. These are all the colors from white all the way down here. We could set it to something like blue because his shirt is blue. I'm going to probably just do a red. Let's just try a red. Just for purpose sake, let's do red. I don't think anything else is here is red. Okay, so LT red. We'll go ahead and we're going to run that now to change our sprite data shirt to red. And now our sparrow has the red shirt. So just like that, like I said, that's how we go ahead. And trying to think anything else I could really tell you about this because everything else is set to work in motion with everything going forward. So I really don't want to try to start going through and altering a lot of stuff here. Although we could, but I think for the sake of this project right now, I think this is good enough. This is just going to be a very simple. I know I wanted to make it more bloated than it actually is, but at the same time, everything else was introduced, like our weight frame was introduced here. You know, our delta controls, I did mention those at the beginning of this video. The delta controls are being defined here in the player routines, and we just go through the code here, for example, and they're actually inside of each movement. So here's our left and our right movement. Here's our right one. And this is where it's picking up the deltas. And I think if we change this like to a 4, it should do something strange when we're moving to the right, but we may not see it unless we get all the way to the right-hand side of the screen. So let me see if it actually, Actually, you know what I'll do is I'll play with the up ones. Let's put this one back because it'll be easier to get to the top of the screen than it would to the left or right. So we'll do the up one here. We'll change this to like a 4 just to see if we can get the deltas to kind of misbehave here. Okay, and we'll wait for that to run, finish, load. Okay, now as we're moving down here, our deltas are keeping track of our sprite in a box area, right? So you notice I can't move all the way up now because my data of my sprite is already hitting 4, so it's not able to move into the next tile. So we basically locked ourselves, and there's no way I can go anywhere over here or anywhere over here and move up because that delta has blocked me, which is a great thing about deltas too, because they can be used to detect the collisions. So we'll set that one back here. Just undo it. I think I wanted to try one more thing maybe here too. Let's go to the down one here. I have this delta set to 2. I'd like to change this just to 0 and see if we can prohibit the down movement somewhere here. So we're going to run that again and wait for it. Okay, here's our down. Now you notice our up movement is no longer restricted. We can still move back up and down properly now because we've moved past those deltas. Now we'll go all the way down. It'll take me a moment to get down here. So bigger screen here for a minute. So that's a little bit more interesting. Let's say we're playing a game. And there's the bottom almost right there. So I think what it may have done is it may have allowed us to go further down beyond the bottom there because he's below the surface now. Let's test it over here. Yep, and that's what it is. I can't move down any further, so I can no longer get down under here. So I'd be, if this wall were in the way and it were a collision were set up, I'd be stuck. I couldn't get through here. So deltas can be used to detect invisible collisions and stuff like that too. Okay, I think that would probably be it for this project. I didn't want to overdo it and everything, but I hope you guys enjoyed this series here. And I look forward to, the next video and also your comments. Feel free to leave your comments. This was a long series, but I wanted to really demonstrate how to move back and forth between those shape data, because next video is going to only take another step forward, which could throw you off when you start seeing animation, wondering how am I getting all the animation? How do I know which sprite it's pointing to? Which is exactly why I wanted to break it down in this video. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for being here. Have a good one.